Now, how many of you are feeling more positive about your family's finances? Do you feel like you're getting ahead financially, or do you feel like you're falling behind?
When it comes to the economy, Republicans are all bark and no bite.
It's a struggle for any family because the price of food is really outrageous.
When I first moved here, rent was, relatively cheap. Now it's like you really got to have a second or third job, just to keep up with rent.
Well, despite all of this, Biden thinks you should be feeling pretty upbeat.
Just this morning, we got some very good news about the American economy. And I'm not sure, and I mean it sincerely, the news could have been any better.
Couldn't have been any better. Now, I don't know what's lower at this point, his own pulse or his ability to read the pulse of the American people. Because according to that right-wing outfit, NBC News, Americans are, in fact, wildly pessimistic about where we're headed.
So this clip from Laura Ingraham's show is deeply hilarious because you'll notice that she talks about how, oh, Joe Biden isn't doing enough for working class people in the economy. And that's true. But what exactly is the problem in the economy right now? Well, the problem in our economy is the fact that wages are not high enough for people to be able to afford things like housing or healthcare and other basic necessities. And so what is the solution to that problem? Alongside the fact that rent actually keeps skyrocketing. And not only is rent skyrocketing, but there's also this fancy new algorithm that landlords across the country are using to calculate the absolute highest amount they could possibly raise their rent. And they just do this in tandem with each other so that they can get the highest possible rents from working class people and literally force people out of the housing market altogether because they literally can't afford to live anywhere. That is the main problem that our economy is dealing with right now. Just the simple fact that fundamentally people can't afford to survive. Of course, that's on top of the fact that literally coronavirus has disabled millions of Americans, and literally between 1 and 2 million Americans at a minimum have already died from coronavirus. And so that's put a huge strain on our economy. And then of course there's the war in Ukraine causing increases in gas prices and that having other supply chain effects. All of these things are major problems that exist within our economy. And fundamentally, Joe Biden isn't really doing enough to deal with it, right? Joe Biden is not really pushing anything aggressively that would actually materially benefit people with energy prices. He's not really pushing green energy hard enough. He's not actually doing anything to aggressively subsidize food, for example. He's not really doing anything that would actually lower the cost of housing. I don't know, this is wild. Trust busting landlords, perhaps? I don't know. Or really doing anything that would advance higher wages across the country. So yeah, Joe Biden isn't really doing anything. But what are the Republicans doing? I mean, literally the Republicans are out here trying to push a tax bill that would increase the price of everything by adding a somewhat around 30% tax on it, just a sales tax on everything. That would destroy the economy. And so these Republicans are all bark and no bite. Their solutions are ridiculous. But what's even funnier is this bit right here.
But looky here. Where's China headed? A huge jump in 2023 and a taper off a little bit in 2024, but still, that's 4.5 times our GDP. And that dip in 2024 is probably because we're just not going to have the money to buy as much of their junk that we buy now.
You see, she talks about how growth in the United States is so slow and terrible. But then the country that she uses to point out high growth is China. They're a socialist country. They literally have a state-planned economy where the government not only just has control over major industries and things like that, but they also set regulations for the businesses that are privatized in such a way that their entire business environment is heavily regulated. And then if you look at the things that China has done to develop this growth, things like investing aggressively in infrastructure like high-speed rail. They've literally built enough high-speed rail that it could wrap around the entire planet Earth. And that was all over the span of 15 years. Then, of course, there's the reality that they have incredibly walkable cities that they invested a lot of money into building. They've put a ton of money into other infrastructure projects. And did I mention that they're the world leader in green energy? Maybe, I don't know, this is wild. Maybe the energy crisis isn't affecting China as much, in part because they have so much renewable energy in their country. And these are all things that Republicans hate. Republicans, A, hate socialism. They hate the idea of a state-planned economy. But they also hate, just the individual policies that you could look at and take. They hate high-speed transit. They hate public transit. They hate renewable energies, right? All of these things are things that, like, fundamentally, Republicans just literally cannot stand and they're railing against. So what exactly is Laura Ingraham's complaint about Joe Biden? It seems like Joe Biden is basically doing everything that the Republicans would want. Joe Biden is still doing the work of giant corporations. Joe Biden is still upholding the capitalist system. I mean, heck, 109 Democrats went out of their way to condemn socialism, right? 109, and all the Republicans too went to condemn socialism. So, you know, the countries that are actually still having stable economies and growing, those are the countries that the United States is actively condemning while also demanding growth and wondering why Joe Biden's not doing a better job. It's the capitalism. Profits are inherently inefficient. When you have a system that could be run by the government, like, for example, public utilities, the only thing profits are going to do is add cost. That's it. That's all profits do, is just add cost. When you look at healthcare, for example, when you have privatized healthcare, the profits of healthcare companies is literally just an added cost that people have to pay for healthcare. So when you nationalize something, you are by definition making it more efficient by reducing the cost that profits put on the entire economy. So how can China grow while the United States is stagnating? It's very, very simple. It's because they have a socialist system of government and they actually put forethought and planning into their system. It's because they invested in infrastructure and renewable energies. And it's because they put a lot of effort to make sure that coronavirus wasn't a mass disabling event for their entire country. So, yeah. I don't know what Laura Ingraham's complaint is here. Joe Biden's doing everything that she would want him to. It seems the Republicans really just like complaining. They don't actually like dealing with any of the problems, because all of their solutions would actually make everything a heck of a lot worse.